Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Fractured Realities. I am once again your host, Jay Warner. It's been a little while since I've recorded a video. I changed jobs recently, and I was pretty quickly promoted at my new job, so I took on a lot more responsibility, so I work a lot more hours. So between being a part-time caretaker, about 16 to 20 hours a week for a handicapped individual, and my new job, which I don't do corporate sponsorship, so I'm not going to mention the name, but it's one of the big chain stores. I do that, so I don't have as much time, real life calls. I don't try to do clickbait videos or monetize or anything else. I'm not here to make money. I'm here to spread messages and to try to help people's lives if I can. If you'll notice in the background here, I got a couple little furry creatures running around. Black and white cats, Charlie, just in case anybody didn't notice. The dog barking in the background, that would be Vlad. And there's a little white cat around here somewhere named Redrum. So if you see them, they do like to photobomb quite often in my videos. So just so you know who they are. My oldest daughter's on the PlayStation 4 on the other side of the room, but she's keeping the volume down, so don't have to hear The Sims at full volume. It's always a good plus. But, last year kind of ended with a bang for me. A lot of highly emotional charged type things happened to me. I counted in 2018 11 different people that, friends, family, relatives, some that were just associates, but a lot of people that I grew up with that passed away. And a lot of the reasons were drug related. And, as much as you want to try to help somebody who's going through an addiction or going through a problem in their lives, it really has to start with yourself. You have to, if you are one of those people with the problems, you have to acknowledge that you have a problem. You can't blame the rest of the world. You can't blame your upbringing or your society or the people that are around you, the so-called toxic people in your life. If you absorb that toxicity and you become a toxic person yourself, that's on you. I mean, people in your life, whether they're friends, whether they're family, they're interchangeable. They're going to come and they're going to go. But you're always going to have to be stuck with yourself. You're always going to have to look yourself in the mirror and be proud of who you see. And if you're not, then it's time to make changes. Okay, this video might go a little long. And I'm going to warn you, there's definitely adult content. This isn't made for children. It's not a bad message, but that's up to parents to educate them about the dangers of drugs and alcohol, not me. So, adult content warning, animal warning, probably time warning, because some people don't like it when I go over 5 minutes in a video. I'm sorry, this isn't instant gratification. This is my life. This is what I do here. I tell stories about me and about the things that have impacted my life. So if you don't think you could tune in for, more than 5 minutes, you might as well just click off now. Go watch some cat and dog videos or a couple of the 5-minute Mandela videos that are out there. Not that those are bad things. Those are great. And, I love a lot of people in the community, but, my videos tend to go a bit long. I'm long-winded, so that's me. But anyway, I guess I'll kind of, I'm not formatting this. I don't have a format as to where I'm going to go, so I'm kind of going off the fly. So if I have some of my sort of pregnant pauses or times when it looks like I'm, zoning off into space, I'm looking for something because, or trying to think of something to say, it's That's what it is. I don't sit there and format. I don't like to do. I like to do things by the fly. It seems to me to be more organic when I do it that way, as opposed to sitting down and writing out a format. Yeah, I have a notebook with a few notes on it beside me, but just so I don't, go too far off the track. But anyway, I've dealt with addiction and addictive personalities my entire life. I've battled addiction myself. I'm still battling it, and I always will be. Once you're an addict, you're always an addict. There's always going to be that little devil that wants you to jump back into it. I have dreams about getting high and getting drunk and doing all the crazy shit that I did in my 20s, but I have responsibilities. I'm trying to be a more responsible person, and I look outside of myself. I have children. I have a job. I have things that I have to take care of. Like I said, I have a handicapped individual that I help out. So it's not just about me. Okay, and this has been kind of one of the keys to trying to keeping myself on track, is to try to help other people, to try to look outside myself for things that I could do and for inspiration. If I could help my daughters, if I could help people that I know, friends, family, get away, I can. But sometimes, sometimes you can't help people. But like I said before, people have to be willing to help themselves. But, well, okay, I'll kind of start from the beginning here before I go off into one of my preachy segments and my long-winded monologues. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, as most of the people who know me know. The neighborhood that I grew up in, if anybody's ever seen A Christmas Story, you'll shoot your eye out. I grew up about probably 2 or 3 minutes away from there. Like, literally, that house was within walking distance. And in the movies, they show the nice parts of it. You don't see the urban decay and the abandoned lots and the broken glass and beer bottles laying in the middle of the street and the shitty urban sprawl that has sprung up over the years. They, took a couple nice cars and filmed one little block and made it look good, but it's the neighborhoods went through many changes over the years. But while I was growing up, as a young child, it kind of went through different phases, but as I was growing up as a young child, it was a lot of older people who lived on my street, Polish and Irish and German immigrants, a lot of people from West Virginia who relocated, and my mom and dad are both actually from West Virginia. My mom was literally born in a barn, from what I understand. They didn't quite make it to the hospital, so she was born at home, literally in a barn on what is now, was one of the Bob Evans farms in either Kentucky or West Virginia. I don't know. I'd have to really fact check on this. My mom's passed away, of course, so I can't really ask her, but my father was born in Pennsylvania, but he was born in the Pennsatucky part of Pennsylvania, right by the Ohio and West Virginia border. So, I have kind of southern roots, even though I grew up in Cleveland. I don't have a southern accent or a hillbilly accent, but that's where I came from. But while I was growing up, at the time I was growing up, the whole drug culture and party scene was always prevalent. Of course, I'm not old enough to remember the whole disco thing, and I wasn't born until the 1970s, so I don't remember the hippie generation, but I do remember some parts of like the early 80s, the parts of my childhood when I remember just the whole drug culture that was everywhere. Every movie that you watched, everybody was smoking or drinking or smoking pot or doing whatever. I remember my brothers used to have this cool record album that I listened to all the time. It was Cheech and Chong. I don't know if it was Up in Smoke or what the album was called, but inside the album was this big giant ass rolling paper. I mean, so the drug culture was everywhere. Everybody, well, I wouldn't say everybody, but the majority of the people in my immediate family all, used, whether recreationally, whether it was prescription drug use, whether it was alcohol. I mean, everybody had their monkeys, and my father was a drinker, little, short, union, hard work. I mean, he worked 12, 13, 14 hours a day. He was a hard working guy, but he liked his alcohol. He was a huge beer drinker, and then about the time I was 11 or 12, my mom kind of got fed up. He started getting pretty mean, and she told him to, you're going to give up the beer, or you're going to give us up. Well, he did give up the beer. He still drank, but he drank like liquor and mixed drinks, which for some reason, with 90% of the population, when they go from beer to liquor, the liquor makes them nuts. But with my father, it actually calmed him down. He actually became a much better person, going into my teenage years and stuff like that. He, did much better. My mom was never really, I know she smoked pot occasionally and drank occasionally. I wouldn't call her an alcoholic or a drug user, but the monkey that was on her back was prescription pills. And I can't go on long enough about doctors and their willingness to just fucking prescribe any sort of, high volume opiate or whatever for back pain, toothaches, whatever. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. And I do think that doctors, you make a lot of money, people put a lot of faith and a lot of effort into you. You should be held accountable for creating addicts. And that's my opinion. I know you're just doing a job and that's what you're trained to do, but you got to sometimes think about the circumstances. Well, my mom, at the time, I guess when I was a little kid, I don't remember much about it, but I've heard, more stories. She was into the amphetamines, which at the time, amphetamines were prescribed by doctors as diet pills. So my mom was a little skinny, red-headed tornado running around the house, cleaning everything, and I just thought that's just my mom was high-strung. I didn't realize that, it was a little bit chemically induced. But she eventually, she did kick the amphetamines. There was actually a public service announcement that came on TV when I was a little kid, and it showed a lady taking amphetamines, and it said Miss Johnson. My mom's last name was Johnson. It said, Miss Johnson, you're an addict. And I guess that something in that clicked into her, and she quit. She had a lot of health problems. We got into a car accident probably about the time that I was 11 or 12 years old, and it wrecked her back. And from there, she started using a lot of prescription pain medications. And I don't think she used them really too much recreationally, but there were times when I believe that she probably did overuse, and it did. It forms a habit, and up until, when she passed away back in 2011, she had a habit. She couldn't go without her pills. She'd go without food, she'd go without anything else, but she couldn't go without, at the time she was prescribed, I believe, 10 or 20 milligram Oxycontins, and just, and many people in my family. I'm not going to go into full details about it because most of them are passed away, and I'm not going to besmirch anybody's memory, but a lot of people in my family have just fallen into the whole drug craze. 2 out of 3 of my siblings had serious drug issues. My oldest brother, who I no longer associate with, not because of his drug use, but because of his personality or lack therefore of being a parasitic individual. I don't really have too much to do with him. I still talk to his kids. I love my nieces and nephews, which I was 13 years younger than him. So my nephews and my niece are closer to my age than I am to his. So I still associate with them, and they turned out to be great people. But I don't associate with him. And then there was my sister. Just to paraphrase a little bit. She was actually my cousin. My uncle and his wife at the time were going through some problems. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but they were going through some problems and found themselves in a position where they could no longer raise their children. So one of the children went and was raised by my grandmother, and another one came and lived with us. So this was the same year that I was born. My sister, Stacy, came to live with us. Sorry, give me a second here. But she always had issues. She was always kind of an awkward person. But probably about the time I was a teenager, about the time I started on my road, my highway to hell, so to speak, she was already on her way to hers. She had a lot of problems in schools with people, fighting with my parents, and she was in and out of halfway houses and places like that through most of her teenage years. And towards the end of her high school career, the day she turned 18, she dropped out of high school. She decided to move in with an individual who was at the time actually dating a friend of hers. And from there on, she got into a very addictive cycle. She started off with drinking a lot, then it turned into crack use, and from there she became a heroin addict. This was something that she battled for quite a long time. And her battle finally ended about a month ago. No, it was she didn't die of a drug overdose, but complications from drug use, and I really can't talk about it too much, and I'm not going to, but there came a point in my life when I relocated from Cleveland, Ohio to Montana, where I kind of lost communication with her. She didn't have a known address. She would stay at one person's house or another person's house, and it just, I lost communications, and I'm always going to have that guilt factor where I feel like I abandoned her. But like I said before, there's only so much you can do for somebody who doesn't want to help themselves. I tried for years, resources, helped her out. I helped her children. But, some people just, they can't defeat their demons. And unfortunately, she ended up succumbing to hers. So, and that's kind of where I find myself. I find myself kind of isolated from a lot of my friends, a lot of my family, because of the fact that I don't use anymore. But, drug use was a normal thing. The first time I ever smoked marijuana was I went to stay over my older brother's house. I was 8 years old at the time. It was the day before my 9th birthday. And my brother, older guy, he was already in his 20s. He, like I said, 13 years older than me. So he was 24, 25 years old at the time. And he told me, hey, when you're 16, I'm gonna get you high. He's constantly smoking pot at the time, but I was like, okay. And him and his band were sitting around playing, so live music, people being goofy, being drunk, being high, having fun. I thought it was great. I could go over there. He always had the cable boxes, so I could watch free wrestling and things like that. So I mean, as a little kid, I was influenced greatly by that. And at some point during the night, while I was still 8, and he denies this to this day, but it's the truth. Some point during that night, he just passed me a joint. I didn't think anything about it, and I hit it. And I don't know what the fuck kind of weed it was, but man, it had it felt like a tilt-a-whirl or the rotor thing at the fucking fairs that spins you around inside my head. I got sick as a dog again. Kind of avoided it for a few years, but that whole culture was always there. I would go over and visit a certain relative of mine, and when I was 10, 11 years old, and he'd hand me a shopping bag, and I would take that shopping bag to address that somebody wrote down. They'd hand me an envelope. I'd take the envelope back to this person, and they'd open the envelope, and the envelope was always full of money, so just kind of whip out a couple bills and hand them to me. And so, being 11, 12, 13 years old and having a couple $100 in your pocket was phenomenal to me. So, let's fast forward a few years. As I was younger, I kind of tried to stay away from the drugs up until the time I was about 15 or 16. I drank excessively, don't get me wrong. I was a full-blown alcoholic by the time I was 14 or 15 years old. By the time I was 16, that's when I started to smoke pot again. During my high school time, and experiment with like hallucinogenics, stuff like that, acid, mushrooms, and this went on, and I could kind of fast forward into my 20s, and that's when I got really off the chain. That's when I started using cocaine, using prescription pills, and like I said in my NDE video, it almost killed me. Literally, I came to the brink of dying. Not just that one time. There were several other occasions, times when I was involved in crazy situations where bullets ended up flying around, and a lot of things I can't talk about because there's statutes of limitations, and I wasn't a good fucking person. I'm not saying the choices that I made for selfish reasons, because I wanted to get high, because I wanted to escape reality, because I didn't want to face the situations that were causing me problems. It didn't have anything to do with Cleveland. It didn't have anything to do with my parents or my family or my friends. Fuck that. That's a convenient excuse, and it pisses me off when people blame that. The fucking bad decisions that I made in my life, I made on my own, and I own that responsibility. And that's the number one thing when somebody wants to get over an addiction, is own your fucking shit. It says in every NA meeting or AA meeting or Al-Anon or any ones that you go to, you have to acknowledge the shit that you've done. You have to say that you have a fucking problem. You can't blame other people. You can't blame that injury that you had 5 years ago for the fact that you're popping fucking Percocets like Pez. You can't blame something that happened to you in your childhood for the fact that you're fucking shooting heroin into your arms. And I'm sorry. I know this sounds terrible and a lot of people are going to get pissed off at me, but it's the truth. Taking responsibility is the first step to becoming that. Don't lose your fucking humanity because of something that happened. And a lot of times, I hate to say it, but people, especially people who get into the harder drugs like meth or heroin or crack, or they literally lose their humanity. Their life becomes more about getting high, getting over on people. It changes their personalities. And like I said, I did a lot of fucking horrible things when I was drunk or when I was high that I wish I could have took back. I wasn't a good person either. And I contributed to it. There were friends of mine who literally never used. They were sort of straight edge. They might have drank once in a while, but they hung around with me. They started getting fucking high, and I will never live that down. I have several of my friends who died. I had several of my friends who lost their fucking minds, who lost everything they have, who ended up homeless, and no, it wasn't just my fault. They accepted that fucking line of cocaine. They accepted that weed or that alcohol or whatever, and they went off the charts from there. But I did introduce it to them, so I'm always going to have that karmic burden on me, and that's part of the reason that I want to try to help and reach out to people. And I'm not going to fucking preach to people. I'm not going to be one of those people that try to drag everybody into NA meetings or drag everybody into AA meetings or tell them that. But if somebody reaches out to me and somebody wants help, I'm more than glad to help or to sponsor or to do what I can for someone. But if they come to me with excuses and come to me with, I can't do this, I can't do it, they're not ready. So I have to step back. You know what I mean? I have to do that for my own personal sanity. Okay, I'm sort of an empath. I pick up on people's emotions, and bringing that kind of chaos into my life is a fucking dangerous thing for me. Okay, a couple years ago, I had this friend of mine who I let come here and stay, and she was just a fucking human vampire. She sucked all the fucking joy out of life. She literally tried to ruin me in fucking any way she could. She did ruin several of my friendships, caused me problems at work, everything else. So, I can't bring a toxic person into my life. I can help people if they want to be helped, but if they can't be helped or they're not ready, I can't fuck with them. I can't do it. And I've unfortunately lost a lot of people because of that. You know what I mean? Another friend of mine, his name was Mike. I've lost touch with him over the years, but I'd reconnected with him recently on Facebook. And, another one of my friend of mine, I knew he'd been a heroin user. Another friend of mine had told me about it. And, and I talked to him, and he admitted to it. He wasn't trying to sly out of it. He took responsibility for what he was and what he did. Mike told me that, hey, I'm going into rehab, and, I encouraged him. I did everything I could. I'm like, well, hey, when you get out, or, if you get access to a computer, I'm not sure, what kind of rehab you're going into, but when you get out, contact me. And, he did his full stint, but when he got out, I don't know the full details of it. Like I said, I'm 1,500 miles away here in Big Timber, Montana. But he apparently, passed away that night. It was his first night back, if I'm correct about this. But, and then there's the little girl who grew up next door to my older brother. She ended up marrying my nephew, and she lost her battle this year, and just several others. There's another kid that I worked with who, he lost his battle. He passed away, and it's just, person after person, people come and go in your life, and everyone feels like a loss. It's like, could I have reached out? Could I have done something to these people? And the answer is generally no. People choose their own paths. You could try to influence them. You could try to give them advice, but if they can't do it on their own, they can't do it. And there's just several characters that I grew up with and that lost their battle. Here's an example. It's not somebody that I was really great friends with or that I wasn't associated with, but there was this kid named Steve. I'm not going to, of course, give last names out of respect for the family, but he was a skateboarder, kind of a rebel, and I was, the long-haired kid wearing the Megadeth shirts and the Slayer shirts and shit like that. And he was more into like the Circle Jerks and the early punk stuff. But we got along. We hung out a few times, and later on, when those things became less the socially acceptable norm, and everybody started thinking that they were a gangster in the '90s, he sort of went more of the Eminem route, and then he became known as 40 Ounce Steve. And 40 Ounce Steve, you could go by the gas station any day of the week, and there he was sitting in a car, sitting around the corner, drinking a 40 ounce out of a plastic bag. Then 40 Ounce Steve turned into Crackhead Steve. He started smoking crack cocaine, and and I just happened to ask one of my friends a couple years ago whatever happened to him, and I found out he also overdosed. And it's just person after person. There was a kid named Joe, kind of a heavy set, nerdy kind of kid, kind of awkward, but he got real into the pills, and he had a good line on prescription pills, so he was selling them to people, giving them to people. So he came around and he partied with us. Man, he hooked up with some little hottie that he had met, and went on a trip with her, and unfortunately she set his ass up. They robbed him, they beat him up, and they threw him out of a moving car on I-90, and he lost his life. Another one of my friends who I was real close to as a teenager growing up, his name was we'll just call him TJ. Looked and acted like Jim Morrison. He was just the hippie kid. He loved running around barefoot and sleeping outside, even though he had an apartment. His parents actually moved away and gave him a house, which we turned into a party pad and kind of ruined. But TJ was a good friend of mine. He'd come over and occasionally and crash on my parents' couch. My parents accepted it. TJ was getting to the point where he was going to get his life together. He had went to jail. But he'd gotten out. He was going to move to Florida, and a friend of his had gotten him a job at Cape Canaveral, and he was actually going to be working there. And the day he got out, he decided to get drunk. Well, he was drinking alcohol and walking around in the middle of the street barefoot, dancing around in the middle of the street, having a good time, but he partied a little too hard. He didn't see the car coming. A car hit him and knocked him probably 90 feet away, and he lost his life. And I could just go on and on. There was another kid that I hung out with who I grew up. He smoked, I'm not sure if it was crack or if it was meth the first time. He had an aneurysm and fucking died. Another kid that I know, was all fucked up on painkillers and got into an accident. He was fucking crippled from the age of 14. Most of the people that I know didn't make it through their 30s. I mean, literally, I know more people that are below the ground than above the ground now, and it's just sad. But, It is what it is. We have an epidemic, and we have a problem in this country. And until we acknowledge the problem and try to fix it, and a lot of the problems, okay, we could talk about certain drugs. All right, marijuana. Marijuana, of course, is mild. Marijuana medically has many uses, but for those who have an addictive personality, marijuana is a gateway drug. For me personally, it was a gateway. It was a gateway into the LSD. It was a gateway into the mushrooms and the ecstasy and all that other shit that I did as a kid. And so do I advocate for the legalization of marijuana? You might as well, because I don't believe people need to be put in fucking jail because they smoke an herb that comes out of the ground. I personally don't puff on the fucking jazz cabbage. I don't do it anymore. It doesn't do anything for me except put me to fucking sleep anyway. But it is what it is. So it's one of the less evil drugs, and yes, I would rather have people, if they have to get fucked up on something, or they have to get pain relief, I would rather have them doing that than prescription opiates. And these fucking doctors with their prescription pads that will give a fucking 7 or 8 year old kid amphetamines, or fucking known addicts fucking opiates. You don't think you don't take fucking responsibility for what's happening in our country. When you give a fucking kid, because they have behavior modification problems, because they have ADHD, please, parents, I beg you, don't give your fucking kids Ritalin. Don't give them these fucking drugs. Don't get them started on an addiction. And if you have fucking pain problems, please don't abuse those fucking opiates that they give you, that they hand out like fucking candy these days. And that's where it starts. It starts at home. It starts with what kids see and kids hear. My daughter's unfortunately seen me drunk and stupid quite a few times, but they never seen me high. They never seen me out of control. They never seen me mean. And I did quit drinking alcohol a couple years ago. And why? Because I walked in the fucking house one day with alcohol, and I seen my daughter roll her fucking eyes at me. And that was proof there. I dumped every fucking bit out in my house, and it's been 2.5 years I haven't drank. Have I had the desire to drink? Fuck yeah, I have. I see people that I know out having a good time and fucking drinking. I don't date. I don't associate with that many people, because everybody I know drinks. They all do that. That's everywhere you go. There's alcohol. People can't seem to have a good time without drinking, or fucking smoking dope, or popping a couple pills, and it's just, that's not where I'm at. I'd rather stay at home and fucking play PlayStation or watch YouTube videos or pet my damn dog than go out and watch people slowly wreck their lives. And those of you who think that recreational alcohol to me is one of the most evil fucking drugs, because it's legal. Because everywhere you go, alcohol's available. You go to a concert, there's bars. You go to street fairs, there's bars, there's alcohol poured out. It's legal. But more lives have been fucking lost because of alcohol and because of alcohol-related crimes, drunken driving, cirrhosis, than all the other drugs combined. So just because it's fucking legal doesn't mean that it's good. And if you want to go out and you want to drink occasionally, that's fine. But if you think that you can't have fun without the addition of alcohol, and if you have to have a couple drinks every night just to go to bed or to be able to sleep, you have a fucking problem, my friend. You're an alcoholic, and you need to admit it. I'm an alcoholic. I admit it. I know I had a problem, but I took care of that problem. That's done. Okay, sorry that I if I seem like I'm attacking, I'm not attacking anybody. And I have many friends who still drink, who still do drugs. I don't judge, okay? I try not to. But one thing I do have to say is, when you have children, it's no longer about you. Put that fucking bottle down, stop partying, stop popping those fucking pills. That fucking become a parent. Lead by fucking example. If you're battling addiction, there's certain things that you could do in certain steps. And no, I'm not going to recite an NA meeting or NA steps. Okay? If you're a religious person, go to church. If you believe in God, you believe in the Trinity, and that helps you, use that. But there's other things to keep in mind. And this is something that they don't cover in most NA meetings or AA meetings, is the worst thing that you can do when you are in recovery is to go fuck around with the same toxic ass people who got you there in the first place. Don't use AA meetings and NA meetings as a fucking dating place. That the worst thing that can happen is two fucking addicts to get together. And anybody who's been around addicts or dealt with addictive personalities knows eventually, one person's going to get into an argument with another one. You're both bad, especially if you're both battling recovery at the same time. It just does not work out. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. You can love anybody to death, but if you're both addicts, eventually you're going to find an excuse. You're going to fucking relapse. You hang out with the same drunk assholes who you hang out with all the time, and you're a serious alcoholic, you are going to fucking drink again. It is what it is. And I don't care if it's friends. I don't care if it's family. You don't have to cut these people out of your lives and disassociate with them, but you don't have to go to their parties. You don't have to hang out with them. You don't have to fucking get high to be acceptable. You don't have to fucking get drunk to hang out with them. You could fucking say no. It's saying no to yourself, primarily saying no to your friends, and saying no to your family. It's about you. It's about your survival. It's about your soul and strengthening your soul and who you are. You have to have the fucking fortitude to say no. That's the main thing. And here's another thing that drives me absolutely fucking nuts. Okay? I'm involved with a lot of people who are into, just to paint it with a broad brush so people understand more, the spirituality community and the witchcraft community. And nonstop, I read these posts where people talk about DMT and marijuana and mushrooms and how you increase your vibration. And no, you don't. You're putting your brain into a hallucinatory state. That doesn't mean that you're speaking to gods or you're speaking to fucking spirits. You're fucking hallucinating. You're speaking to yourself. And this is going to piss a lot of people off and a lot of friends that I know. And I know drugs have been used throughout history in rituals, but it's also my personal belief that you lower your fucking vibration, especially with fucking alcohol. Don't expect to become a spiritually enlightened person when you're sucking down fucking booze every night. And hey, I'm drinking caffeine now. I'm gonna go have a cigarette here in a little while. I'm far from fucking perfect. I'm still an addict. And I'll be the first to admit it. But you know what? I don't drink. And I'm never gonna fucking tell anybody that you need to try DMT or you need to eat magic mushrooms or fucking smoke dope or take ayahuasca in order to come to a greater spiritual understanding. I've came to a greater spiritual place in my life being sober than I ever did when I was fucking with any of that. So that's something that personally offends me. I don't comment on it. I don't say much about it, but it's bullshit. You don't need to be fucked up in order to experience a higher spiritual plane. You need to be pure. You need to fucking have sunlight in your life. You need to ground. You need to become in touch with nature. You need to not eat shitty foods. Don't smoke like I do. Don't drink a lot of caffeine. They're all inhibitors. All those things fucking inhibit your vibrational abilities. They don't enhance them. Anytime you think that you're enhancing your abilities because you're fucked up, you are not. You are convincing yourself that you have a reason to get fucked up. You have a reason to get high. That's all that is. So don't believe the hype. You don't need to do that. If you want to fucking smoke pot, that's fine. I don't care. Fuck, you want to shoot your veins up full of fucking heroin, or you want to smoke fucking DMT and talk to fucking invisible men, that's fine. That's on you. If that's your path, that's fine. But don't encourage other fucking people to do it. Don't encourage people to get fucked up to come to a new spiritual understanding because that's the fucking crutch that you use. Let them fucking figure it out themselves. That's my opinion. So yeah, that's something that I kind of speak out against. Like I said, I'm for the legalization of marijuana. Fuck, you want to legalize you want to legalize heroin, you want to legalize cocaine, methamphetamine, and put it in some kind of fucking facility where people aren't out on the street fucking doing God knows what for fucking drugs. Maybe that's a better solution. I don't know. But I know that we live in a country full of addicts. I'm in a small town, and I've seen time and time again these young kids that are in high school, they start off fucking drinking, then get into smoking pot, then before you know it, they're in their 20s and they're fucking battling a methamphetamine addiction. And it's just over and over again. This is small towns, this is rich people, this is poor people. It has nothing to do with fucking nationality. It has nothing to do with status. It has nothing to do with your religious upbringing. If you let those fucking demons into your life, those demons will control your life. Take it from me. It happens. You can defeat your demons, or you can fucking let them overcome you. But if you let them overcome you, believe me, your fucking status in your life, your job, your family, your relationships, your fucking spiritual health are all at risk. So don't think that you're going to become a better person when you're filling yourself up full of fucking poison. And okay, sorry if I seem like I'm preachy or whatever, but this is something that truly cares about me. I'm tired of seeing posts about my friends relapsing. I'm tired of getting those fucking calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, finding out that somebody else that I cared about has passed away. And I'm tired of seeing people go through the same things over and over again. I wish I could help more people. I wish I could reach out and do more. But I've helped myself. If somebody wants help, if somebody wants to contact me, any of you, feel free to fucking contact me. Leave a message, leave a link. I'll get in touch with you somehow. I'll even give you my phone number. You can call me and you can talk to me personally. I will help you if I can. But don't tell me you don't have a problem, or you're just an occasional user, or don't tell me that, I just drink once or twice a week so I don't have a problem, because you're in a state of denial. Get out of the state of denial. Face up to the fact that you have a problem. Stay away from friends and family and toxic fucking relationships and people. Stay away from enablers. Even if this person that you're with isn't that, but they tell you everything that you want to hear and say, okay, yeah, that's fine, get high, because they just want to avoid the conflict. They're fucking enablers. They're just as bad as the person who's putting the fucking pipe in your hand. So know the signs. Look at it. You're going through weight loss, you're losing jobs, people are looking at you, people are shaking their fucking heads when you walk by, people don't want to fuck with you. Things just don't seem to be going right for you. Make the change, man. Come on. Being sober is not a horrible thing. It is refreshing. Once you know sobriety, once you have the cleanliness of mind, once you can remember everything that you've done and that you've said from weeks past, not losing memories, not losing time, not losing friendships. Be a real person. Sometimes it's hard. It's hard to face this world without that sheen of chemical or without that little help. But you can do it, man. Anybody can. Anybody can overcome it. But you have to want to. You have to make that change yourself. And I don't care who you are. I don't want to see anybody suffer. I don't want to see more people die. So let's stop making excuses and let's start making the change. Let's come to a higher, cleaner spirituality. Let's stop partying, or if you must party in a different way. Work out, do activities, go climb a mountain, go see nature, go walk outside barefoot. Go take a swim in the ocean, go skydiving. You know, there's a lot to be said about adrenaline and a lot to be said about physical fitness. Do things that you're going to remember for the rest of your life, not things that you're going to regret for the rest of your life. I love you all, and I don't want to lose any more people. Okay? So, you can change. Be the change. But it starts with you. Thank you so much. And sorry if this went a little long and I babbled a little too much, but it's something that I feel strongly about. I love you all. Thank you.